Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. Is there anybody online? No? Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Lieutenant Gabe Castor with the Monterey Police Department. I'm here with Chief Dave Hober and Assistant Chief Mike Bruno. We're going to be giving a presentation on our automated license plate recognition software that we're looking at for the city of Monterey. Before we get started, I just wanted everybody to know that we did create a Have Your Say Monterey webpage. So if you haven't been able to take a look at that yet, there's a lot of information on there. So it's pretty simple. You just type Have Your Say Monterey into any search engine and it'll pop up. There'll be a little drop-down menu that says projects, and you go under the ALPR one, and there's a bunch of information on there. Information on how the ALPR works, our proposed policy, a bunch of emails from community members and folks in reference to if they're in favor of it or opposed. And there's just a bunch of information on there that people can look at. So again, it's Have Your Say Monterey, and then the project is the automated license plate readers. There we go. So I'm going to run through this slideshow presentation, and then we will ask if anybody's got any questions or comments or would like to come up and make a statement, and we'll invite people up and have say your piece, and we'll answer any questions folks have, and we'll go from there. So the purpose of this town hall meeting is so MP can provide information related to ALPRs and why the MPD believes this would be an important investigative tool, to obtain input and feedback from the public related to the ALPR system in Monterey, and to answer any questions related to the ALPR system. So what is an ALPR system? So automated license plate recognition. The Civil Code defines it as a system, searchable computerized database, resulting from the operation of one or more mobile or fixed cameras combined with computer algorithms to read and convert images of registration plates and the characters they contain into computer readable data. What does that mean to us? That means it's a picture of someone's license plate when they pass one of the cameras. There's two parts to this. There's the fixed and there's the mobile. We'll talk about the fixed real quick first. So the fixed is basically a camera, a static camera posted in a location, typically an intersection. The cameras are 10 to 12 feet in the air, so they come down at an angle on the post, and they're basically taking pictures of license plates as they go through that intersection. The mobile aspect of it is it uses the ALPR cameras on our vehicles. So in all of our patrol vehicles, we have cameras existing in there right now. It's part of our body-worn camera system, so all the cameras have them. Excuse me. And all the officers have a body-worn camera that we wear whenever we make contact with anyone in the field. We turn our body camera on, and if we're conducting a traffic stop or something like that, the vehicle camera's on as well to catch as many angles of the video that we can. And what would happen is our existing cameras in our vehicles, all we have to do is hit the switch, and once we hit that button to turn on the ALPRs, it'll be scanning as we drive around the city. So if a stolen vehicle from another location pulls out in front of me and at a red light, and I haven't been given the description or the plate, and it's been put onto the stolen vehicle system list, then it'll alert me that the vehicle in front of me is potentially stolen. And what I would do is verify that information through dispatcher records. That's a major part of this, is verifying the information, the license plate, as well as the vehicle description. And then I would be able to take action with that. So those are the two aspects of it, fixed and mobile. The benefits of an ALPR system. So the ALPR will assist MPD in locating vehicles that have been used in criminal activity or part of a crime. This will assist in apprehending those individuals in a crime, recovering stolen property, and deterring crime. ALPR both records plates and alerts on plates, just kind of like I described. And while MPD officers are provided information related to vehicles used in criminal activities and or stolen vehicles, humans cannot retain and access the information as readily as a computer. So a lot of times we are given numerous plates and numerous descriptions of stolen vehicles from different cities around our area. It's very difficult for me to remember all of them. So if a stolen vehicle is directly in front of me and I don't remember that plate from when somebody told me 8 hours earlier, and I don't remember the description of that vehicle, there's no way for me to know that that vehicle's stolen. What the computer can do, computer can memorize all that stuff, and the computer memorizes all those descriptions and numbers on the plates and everything, and it'll tell me, oh, that is reported stolen from wherever, Santa Cruz or Salinas or whatever it is. The alert would notify an officer of a vehicle on a hot list, such as the stolen vehicle system, and the officer must then confirm the information, like I said a second ago, with dispatch or records to confirm that that is the actual vehicle that is stolen, that's the correct plate, and that's the correct description of the vehicle, and then the officer can take action. So ALPR technology assists in solving and deterring crime in 3 ways. So it's proactive. Oh, am I? Oops. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I should check periodically here. So it's proactive, investigative, and a deterrence. So let's talk about each one of those. So proactive provides real-time alerts when stolen or wanted vehicles enter Monterey. I'm going to give you a real-time incident that occurred a couple weeks ago in Pacific Grove. We're going to talk about a bunch of success stories here coming up in a few minutes, but goes to this point of proactive. ALPR hit on a vehicle coming into the city of Monterey, going through Pacific Grove. They advised us of the plate and the description of that vehicle. Our officers located that vehicle, confirmed all that information, and were able to make an arrest, take 2 people into custody, and return the stolen vehicle to the owner. That was just a couple weeks ago. There was actually 2 of them within 3 days that came through Pacific Grove into Monterey, and we were able to get the information and return the vehicle to the owner and take people into custody. It's also investigative. So ALPR records plates of vehicles in Monterey, leading to investigative leads after a crime has occurred to assist in solving crimes. So once I get to the success stories, I'll be able to explain a little bit further some actual real-time events that occurred and where investigators and detectives were able to take either a plate or a description. One of the examples is going to be that actual victim's vehicle that they looked up on their ALPR, and they were able to find somebody following this person's vehicle and collect information and use that lead to go make an arrest for the person that had committed that crime. So it's used for investigative purposes. And deterrence. The presence and publication that there is an ALPR system will act as a deterrent. We have thefts from our mall, we have thefts from vehicles, and a lot of these other crimes, stolen vehicles and things. And just goes to show you that if you know that you're going to be on camera, you're probably not going to commit that crime in the city of Monterey if you know you're going to be tracked in camera all throughout the city. So these are the cities, the cities in Monterey County that are using ALPR systems now. So we've got Carmel by the Sea, Pacific Grove, Salinas, Sand City, Seaside, and Marina. So basically everybody surrounding us has ALPR systems in place. So let's talk about ALPR success. This is kind of the importance of the tool here. Let's start with Seaside. So there was an attempted murder in South County. ALPR alerted Seaside PD of the attempted murder suspect's vehicle location as it passed one of their fixed cameras in the city of Seaside. Seaside PD officers confirmed the information, responded to the area of the ALPR alert, and stopped the vehicle. That wanted suspect was taken into custody in a timely manner, and nobody else was injured in that scenario. Also in Seaside, which we all know is just the next city over, there was 4 armed suspects robbed a man at gunpoint as he walked on the sidewalk in Seaside. Seaside PD used ALPR to identify the suspect's vehicle. This led to the identification and arrest of 2 suspects. Seaside officers were also dispatched to a shooting in their city. Witnesses gave the officers the description of a vehicle involved in the shooting, and the vehicle description was put into their ALPR system. Salinas PD then received a ALPR hit on that vehicle. They were able to make a stop on that vehicle, and they arrested the suspect and located the gun that was involved in the shooting. So it went from Seaside all the way over to Salinas. They were alerted of it, and they were able to take the person into custody and take that gun off the street. Let's move over to Salinas. Salinas PD responded to a victim found in her vehicle who suffered a gunshot wound. The victim later died. ALPR was used to determine the victim's location just before the homicide, which led to detectives to identify the suspect. In a second case, Salinas PD detectives used the description of a vehicle to obtain ALPR data that led to the identity of a killer. Also in Salinas, 3 armed suspects committed a home invasion robbery. So they broke into someone's home when it was occupied. There were no cameras in the area and very few leads in reference to this case. Salinas PD detectives used ALPR to identify vehicles leaving the area of the crime. These leads led to the identification and arrest of the suspects. Salinas PD detectives were also investigating a sexual assault of a victim that the suspect had drugged. The victim in this case knew who the suspect was, gave the information to the police, but they were unable to locate this person. Through their investigative process, they put the plate and vehicle description into their ALPR system, found out that the subject drove past one of their ALPR cameras on the way to work, and they were able to arrest that suspect for the sexual assault. Sorry, I was one behind again. Okay, so the attempted murder suspect arrested in Pacific Grove. So 3 suspects with guns attacked the victim at Lovers Point. PGPD used the ALPR system to identify the vehicles the suspects left in. The ALPR then led to the arrest of 2 of the 3 suspects. That case is ongoing. PGPD also used their ALPR system to identify a suspect vehicle that was involved in a pursuit in Pacific Grove that came into Monterey. And through their camera system, they were able to get a picture of the plate and and description of the vehicle and collect information on that subject. So since making this last presentation, we received information on numerous other investigations and cases that were solved by using ALPR, or leads that were gained by using ALPR. So I'm just going to run through a couple of them really quick. So there were two stolen vehicles, like I said earlier, in Pacific Grove that came into the city of Monterey. We were able to collect that information, conduct our investigation, and those people were taken into custody. There was a shooting in Salinas. Actually, the day before we did this last presentation, the day of actually, they were able to find out information, get some leads from the cars that left that area, and were able to make some arrests in that one. And we just received, I think it was 2 days ago, there was an armed bank robbery. Well, the subject gave a note to the bank teller saying that he was armed. One in Salinas and one in Gilroy. They both used their ALPR systems to collect information on that car. It was the same person that did these robberies, these bank robberies in both cities. They were caught on both ALPR systems, and now they have a lead to arrest the subject. Okay, so there's some existing state legislative mandates for public agencies that operate ALPR systems. So I know this is a lot of reading on this slide, so I'm going to kind of sum them up for you. The first 2, they're about implementing policies and procedures that are created to ensure privacy and civil liberties are protected. It also defines the reasonable security procedures when working with ALPR data. And the second group, the last 2, they discuss the operators and the info that they're going to be accessing and the security for the info that they're going to be accessing as the operators of this system. Okay, so MPD users are going to be trained before access to the ALPR system. Every new system and every new piece of equipment that we get has specific training that's needed before we implement the equipment or get the system working, and this will be no different. So before anyone's able to access the system, we are going to train them on the legal requirements, privacy concerns, the policy mandates, and system usage. An interesting, very important part of this is each officer or each person using the system is going to have a unique identifier, a password, and there's going to need to be an investigative reason for that access. So I'm going to have to put my personal information or my personal unique identifier into the computer, the password that I've chosen. And before I can look at any cameras or any license plate, I'm going to have to put a reason. The reason is typically going to be a case number, but you can put, you're investigating a homicide or whatever the case may be, but you're going to have a reason for why you're accessing that information. And the officers and folks using it are only allowed to access ALPR information for authorized purposes. As a checks and balances, we're going to do audits of the system to ensure the data is being used in accordance with department policies and the law. So that is an important piece to this as well. So let's talk about what this technology is. It is license plate recognition. It gathers objective evidence and facts about vehicles, not about people. It alerts police of wanted vehicles. It's used to solve crimes, and it adheres to all the state and legal mandates, which are also in our policy. What this tech is not, it's not facial recognition. It's not tied to personal identified information, and it's not used for traffic enforcement. Like we were talking about earlier, the data is only stored for 30 days, and the only time that it would be stored for longer than 30 days is if the plate that we're looking for, the description that we're looking for of the vehicle is involved in some sort of crime, and we're investigating that. Otherwise, the information is purged after that 30 days, and you can't get it back. It's gone. So if we're investigating something, it's going to stay in the system. And here's a snapshot of what the ALPR provides. So that's a picture of the vehicle. It's going to give the plate number, the make, the color, when it was last seen, and what does it provide? So it's the ALPR camera takes the photo. The computer algorithms read and convert the image to that picture that you see right there, provides vehicle details and a license plate. It's indiscriminate evidence found from fixed locations, and no people, no facial recognition, no traffic enforcement. And again, all the footage is gone after 30 days. It's deleted from the system after 30 days. Again, unless you're involved in a crime or that vehicle is something that we're looking at. So I know this one's a little bit difficult. This one's a little bit difficult to see. And these are just our proposed locations of the 35 cameras. But it will cover all of the ingress and egress. So any way in and out of the city is going to be covered by an ALPR camera. The thought is, once you get into the city, we've got a pretty good sized city. Once you get into the city, let's say we're in a stolen vehicle from Santa Cruz or from another city or our city, it doesn't really matter. You're in a stolen vehicle and you pass one of our cameras. Well, that's excellent information for us that, okay, the stolen vehicle just came in off the freeway, but now where did it go? So that's why we have some inside the city as well in some of the busier areas, Del Monte areas and the main streets, because now it'll go, oh, well, now the vehicle is on Franklin and or Del Monte and Alvarado. Okay, well, now we've got a marker inside the city that's telling us where the vehicle is. This comes into play in Seaside a few months ago. They had a stolen motorcycle. That motorcycle went blasting by one of the cameras. It alerted the Seaside police that it went blasting by that camera, and they went, well, where the heck did it go? And then it went by another camera. Okay, now we're getting there. Where did it go? Went by another camera. Okay, now we're getting behind it. Now they verified all the information through their investigation, conducted the stop, and made the arrest for the stolen vehicle. So that's why it's also important to have some cameras within the city, because once it gets in the city, it can just travel around and do whatever it really wants until it goes out of the city again or passes another camera. So that's why it's important to have some within the city as well. So the mobile ALPR system that we talked a little bit about earlier. So Axon is the camera system that we have, and it's the cameras that are in our vehicles. MPD utilizes the Axon Fleet 3 mobile video recorders in the cars, like I talked about a little bit ago. Axon Fleet 3 has the capability of functioning as a mobile ALPR system. So it's already built into the software and everything. We just have to turn it on. And the Axon Fleet 3 mobile ALPR system could be activated and work in conjunction with the fixed ALPR system. So they kind of go hand in hand. Something that was brought up at the last meeting that I will discuss before we get to questions and comments. The encryption of the video was discussed. So one of the companies that we're looking at and that the folks all around have, they use what's called government cloud encryption, which uses and I don't know what this is, but it uses an AES 256 encryption. And what that means is this is the standard for the intelligence community, and it's the highest level of security offered. So there's no external facing IP addresses. And so basically it makes it very difficult or almost impossible to hack into that system. So they use what all of the other intelligence community are using for their encryption. One other thing I wanted to bring up real quick here is the ALPR systems are attached to the silver and amber alerts. So I was able to locate 3 amber alerts that ALPR assisted in returning those children to their families. 2 of them were parental abductions, and the parent was not supposed to have that child, took the child, did not return it to the parent that was supposed to have it, and they put it in the ALPR system and located those 2 children. The third one was a random child at I think it was a park that somebody grabbed and pulled into a big red van. It was just a random person that kidnapped us and abducted this child. They were able to locate and return that child to the parents when it was put into the ALPR system, and the ALPR system alerted law enforcement that it went past their location and they were able to return that child. So that is our presentation for the ALPR system. Anybody that would like to speak today, please feel free. What we're going to do is we'll just line up over on this side, and you can come on right up here and ask any questions, make a statement, whatever you want to do. But the floor is going to be yours, and Chief and I will do our best to answer any questions that you have. Is there anybody? Okay. I don't. So for the online folks, if you just use the raised hand feature, then we will be able to know that you have a question. We'll be able to call on you. That work?
So let's start here, and then Clementine can explain to the people online. And is Hector online? Good. So we have somebody from Flock that can explain. We have questions too.
Yep. So anybody that wants to speak, please, the floor is yours.
We actually kind of have you facing out because the camera's up there. So if you kind of go over to where Gabe was, then our viewers online can see you better.
So first of all, thanks for the presentation, Gabe. Chief, always good to see you. Good to meet you. I'm Mitchell Fawney, local business owner on Alvarado, and resident of Seaside. I'd like to speak in support of the system. In fact, I was at a town hall hosted by Dave Pacheco, council member at Seaside, on Monday, and Police Chief Borges from Seaside discussed all the various advantages of having ALPR. And Flock, I think it's the same system they use. It's basically a force multiplier at a very nominal cost. And it only is negatively impacting those that have something to hide. If you have nothing to hide, you should not be afraid of this system. And we want our men and women in blue to have all the tools possible for them to do their jobs more effectively, more efficiently, and safely, right? I did not know about the mobile ALPR, so that was a learning lesson for me. I think that's just fantastic. And I'd like to speak in support of this. I hope the city adopts this for the benefit of Monterey residents, business owners like me, and everybody who comes to visit Monterey every day. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Did anybody else want to speak?
I've just got a couple of questions. One of them is, how often are you contacted by other surrounding cities with the system saying that vehicles coming into Monterey?
Well, recently more.
You got to push the button so people online can hear you. There you go.
Sorry.
Because you mentioned a couple of examples, so I was wondering how often that happens.
There were 2 examples in 3 or 4 days from Pacific Grove. That was about 3 weeks ago. So we're getting more of them. And as people get more cameras, it's inevitably going to happen more often. One of the stolen vehicles was from Santa Cruz, and the other one was from somewhere else, but it was out of the area. So we wouldn't have had any of that information on the stolen vehicles because they're from different counties, and we don't typically get that information. So, but it is happening more often.
Okay, well, I also brought up a cost benefit analysis, which that's something that it's impossible to figure out, but something that you stated before about these missing children being found, you can't put a price on that. It's that simple. I'm all for this.
Very true. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
Hi, good evening. Michelle Welsh. I'm a representative of the 2,000 members of the American Civil Liberties Union, Monterey County chapter, who reside in the county of Monterey, many of whom reside in the city. And I am here to oppose the license plate readers. And that is because As some of you may know, I'm also a constitutional law professor at Monterey College of Law, and I take the Constitution very seriously. And our Constitution in the Fourth Amendment prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures in the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. And also in the Ninth Amendment reserves to the people all of our fundamental rights that are not enumerated, including the right to privacy. We have a right to privacy that's expressly stated in Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution as well. And for these reasons, it's important to consider that this massive surveillance system that takes photographs of every car, every law-abiding citizen, thousands of law-abiding residents, visitors, have their license plates read. And sometimes if they're near the window or if they have children near the window, it can capture pictures, it can capture faces, and it can capture pedestrians or others who are near the vehicles. So the right to privacy is seriously infringed by such a massive system. And it's important to keep in mind that with 35 cameras in 32 locations, which is what I heard presented previously, plus the mobile units, there are photos of all vehicles almost everywhere in the city at all times, 24/7. This is so overbroad that it would appear to me it violates the rights to privacy of almost everyone. And as far as deterrence of crime, this hasn't occurred. There is a citation to a study that was done that's in my letter of January 3rd that I believe is already part of the record. And this study showed that there was no evidence that crime was actually deterred by the presence of license plate readers. It can't be attributed to that. And so looking at a cost benefit analysis too, it would seem that spending the $135,000 plus the 100 and some thousand maintenance cost is money that could better be spent on other forms of deterrence that actually work and that don't violate anyone's right to privacy. I also recall hearing at a previous presentation that as far as access to this information, there are 53 employees or officers, including, not including, but in addition to that, support staff for a total of 67 to 69 persons who will have access to this information. About, I don't know what percentage, but probably over 95% of them would be law-abiding people, residents, and visitors. And this is so overbroad as to be something that shouldn't be happening in our cities. I also am concerned about the risk of error. There have been elsewhere many people who have been arrested, people, including teenagers and children, who have been traumatized by police stops where they thought they were choosing the right vehicle that was identified by this system, but it wasn't the right vehicle and it wasn't the right people. They had committed no crimes at all. So to have a warrantless search of this magnitude with no probable cause, no warrant, and no oversight, except that by the police department itself, is unreasonable and ineffective. And for this reason, I think the city council and the department should seriously consider alternatives and reject the idea of installing license plate readers that violate the privacy of everyone who visits the city or who lives in the city. I have various concerns about the policy itself, which I can present offline and maybe preferably in writing, so that if the council does go forward, that there can be some amendments to the policy to better protect privacy and comply with applicable laws. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have from the perspective of opposition, or to find the answers from my colleagues at the ACLU of Northern California. Thank you. Thank you for your serious consideration of this important issue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clementine, is there anybody, you said there's several people online?
Yes, so first, I believe the first hand that went up was Helen.
Hello, my name is Helen Davis, and I have some concerns about the data and the data ownership. You say it's purged after 30 days, but I also understand this is being collected and run by a private company. Does that company own the data? And do they keep it after 30 days? I'm particularly concerned in this changing world of AI, having so much data available to be harvested. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And Hector, can you, Clementine, have Hector speak? And Hector, can you address that?
Yes, to the gentleman's question, the way that the data is stored in the flock safety system, every single piece of footage or images, I should say, has what's called a time to live date stamp. And so the standard retention is 30 days. At that point, it is hard deleted and no longer retrievable. The data is owned by Monterey PD. Only they can share that data within the system for legal law enforcement purposes. Any sharing that they do is tracked. It's shown in the transparency portal who your department shares with, and every search is auditable as well by your department.
Thank you, Hector.
And Helen, I don't know if that, you lowered your hand, so I think you're done, but if you have another question, please feel free to raise your hand again. And the next speaker, there's not a name associated, so I'll just call in that person.
Hi, are you there? Can you hear me?
Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Hi. Oh, go ahead. Thank you so much for allowing me to comment. My name is Deanna Merritt Moore. I live in Carmel Valley, and I'm part of a group of about 200 locals, the Health Freedom Monterey group, and they asked, we actually got together and wrote a letter, and I'd like to read that letter. And so it's please add this to comment to the public record. With much gratitude, we give for the opportunity to comment on your upcoming plan to install the ALPR technology known as license plate recognizing cameras, LPR, in Monterey. I'm going to read this comment from our group, Health Freedom Monterey. 200 members, we meet regularly focusing on preserving health and non-health liberty and choice for citizens of the Monterey area. Firstly, our group is very supportive of the police department. Thank you guys. You guys do a great job. Regarding the project, we understand that the technology has been very successful at apprehending lawbreakers. Surveillance is very effective, and then the added level of the recognition essentially tracks all vehicles within its detection. This can be a positive plus, but there are minuses that need to be addressed. Essentially, wherever a camera is will be a checkpoint that will gather information or parentheses, your papers without effort on the vehicle part. The location, speed, and information connected to the vehicle will be gathered. In the police department policy manual under administration 433.4, it states it may also be used to gather information related to active warrants, homeland security, electronic surveillance, suspect interdiction, and stolen property recovery. Certainly, whatever information is connected to your vehicle license is also accessible. Interdiction is interesting in this context, and one meaning is the act of interdicting, prohibition, prohibiting, decree, curse, interdict. The loss of privacy is a major problem. Yes, it does state that only vehicles on the hot list or those that officers deem to have reasonable suspicion or probable cause will be acted upon, and that there are restrictions about the use of the information. Also, in the department's policy manual, a third-party vendor will be used to store the information. But there are serious concerns connected with the involuntary gathering of private information in public places like city roads. Involuntary means that consent was not given. Allowing private information to be taken away from you as a driver is an act of great trust. When acting on trust, a person uses faith, believing that those taking will not abuse. Relying on faith is something that people generally reserve for religious matters, not departments or services. Faith is a personal choice protected by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Another concern we have is the evolution or utilization of the technology expanding. Let me say emphatically that I am not accusing the city of any of the following. I have found no evidence except the addition of the UN literature on your website. Our group, and particularly myself, personally care deeply about our environment. I personally have worked very hard and sacrificed time and money to ensure that our children, grandchildren, and beyond have a healthy and clean environment. One example of the use of the LRC is in London, England. They're using a similar system called ULEZ, U-L-E-Z, which captures license information from vehicles traveling in part of the city. Vehicles that do not have low gas emissions are fined automatically each time they enter. People who cannot afford to get another vehicle are receiving numerous violations with hefty congestion fines. Citizens have destroyed over 1,000 ULEZ cameras, testifying that the system is not wanted and not working for their interests. It is a failure and a use of their money used against them. The proposed license recognition cameras in Monterey are for tracking people breaking the law. New laws are made all the time. It is plausible that California could create a law that fines higher emission vehicles in certain areas, just like they did in England. From the City of Monterey website, it is listed that it is said that Executive Order 3-05, the governor's office, has declared a statewide emissions reduction goal of 80% by 2050. Also on the City of Monterey website, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change 6th Assessment Report on the City of Monterey site in the areas of future focus: transportation, advanced clean cars to regulations from CARB. New cars will be 35% ZEVs or zero emissions vehicles by 2026, 68% by 2030, and 100% by 2035. Logically, the license recognition cameras could be extremely useful for attaining these goals. One more possible scenario, the World Health Organization could declare another pandemic and people could be mandated to stay at home. If someone had to travel to help a family member and entered a surveillance area from further away, could they be arrested? The license recognition cameras could also be helpful towards transitioning Monterey into a UN smart 15-minute city.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. In conclusion, better that
I think you're
Here.
breaking up a little bit.
the consequence. The citizens themselves will be treated like criminals. The LRC will bring us a step closer to totalitarianism. We suggest that the city explore other crimes such as supporting a closed border, cameras on private property, more police presence. Please let us know about your plan.
So she's not on there at all. Okay. Okay.
Hello, sorry.
Yeah,
I got
go
cut
ahead.
off.
You're
I
breaking up
just
a little bit and then disconnected.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, anyway, we just had a lot of concerns about what the technology could morph into. We're just worried that because a lot of places in the world, these cameras are being used for more than just crime solving, which we totally approve of. But it's the privacy, it's the further going into the lack of it. Yes. So we suggest the city explore other areas to limit the crime, such as supporting a closed border, cameras on private property, and more police presence. Anyway, thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. Well, really what we're trying to do with these meetings is kind of make them a listening point for us to get different perspectives. And Michelle, I would like to talk to you a little more in depth at another time so we can kind of talk through some of those things that you were suggesting. And unless anybody else has any other questions or comments, I think we'll go ahead and conclude. Our plan right now is to go back to council on March 19th. That's not set in stone, but that's the current plan so that we can put this information together and draft another agenda report and presentation for council and see what council's direction will be from them. But that will, as we always do, the agenda packet for council will be put out within the timelines that needs to be. And that will verify that it's absolutely going to be on that date. Once we lock that in a little more, we'll also put that on the Have Your Say Monterey webpage. So with that, we will conclude tonight's meeting, and I thank everybody for being here.